Well, we're on lesson 71, and we're going to be talking about a king. Right, you know when I'm wearing this crown that we're going to probably be talking about a king by now. Well, we did talk in the last video, we were talking about a king too, and his name was King Arthur. But we don't know a lot about King Arthur because King Arthur lived in the Dark Ages. But we do know that he was a Christian and that he was a hero during that time. Well, the years passed and now we're like in the year 800. And we're going to be talking about another king, which we know a lot about. In fact, he was so famous that they call him the Great. His name was Alfred the Great. And if you go to England, almost every English person will know about Alfred the Great because he's considered one of the greatest kings and one of the first greatest kings, actually, of all England. So what about Alfred? We're going to learn more about him in just a little bit, but first we need to talk about what was going on there in those few hundred years. Well, we do know that there were Germanic tribes that had come and settled in. What happened to the Celts? Yes, the Celts had been pushed back. Some had went to refuge in Ireland and in Wales. Some had intermarried with the Saxons that had come in and they had settled down. Now the Saxons are living in England, but not only the Saxons, we'll find the Angles and the Saxons and the Jutes. And they are the Germanic tribes that invaded into England. They came from the area of Germany. Now, Germany wasn't a country then. It was just an area where all these different tribes lived, and they had decided to come to the island of England. The Jutes were the first one, and they pushed back the Celts and the Brits, and they established the kingdom of Kent, and that's in southeast England. The capital of their area was called Canterbury, and there's still a Canterbury, England, even today. It was the first Germanic kingdom. Then came the Angles and the Saxons, which they had all these small little kingdoms that intermingled and fought against each other. Sometimes they had truces, sometimes they got along, and sometimes they didn't. The Saxons named their cities after where they were located. So one area would be Essex. That means East Saxons. Wessex was West Saxons. And Sussex was South Saxons. And those still, if you look on your map of England, you'll see those areas still exist today too. The Angles lived in East Anglia, Mercia, and Northumbria. Now these areas were Angleland. What do you think they called it? Angleland, England, right? That's where the word England comes from, Angleland. Well, all of these Germanic tribes, they were pagans and had many gods. But later, as they settled down, the monks came in and evangelists started sharing the gospel with them. And many thousands of them came to know Jesus and became Christians. We do know that some of the Irish monks came that were first had been evangelized by who but St. Patrick. And then came Augustine. And as Augustine came in with his monks, they went all over the area, and he became the first Archbishop of Canterbury. And so the area of the Jutes and the Angles and Saxons, so they became converted to Christianity. But something else was going on. There were Vikings. Now we learned about the Vikings. The Vikings were brutal. Again, they were pagans. They were pirates. And they would just come in and just take the land by force. They were like terrorists. And they were invading England and Ireland over and over and over. Well, where did they come from? Well, it was called Scandinavia. It was the area that's now Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. We're going to specifically be talking about the Danish, because the Danish came in, being probably the closest in there to the area of England, wanted to take over all of England, all of the Saxons and Anglos and just everyone. So we're going to be talking about these guys. Well, they gained control of East Great Britain, and they called this area Danelaw. Why do you think they called it Danelaw? Well, because they were Danish. They were Vikings, and they said, we're not Saxons, and Danish is the law around here, not Saxons anymore. Saxons are not going to be ruling us anymore. So you'll see that area of Danelaw on your map. During this time, there was this poem written, and it's called Beowulf. It's a poem that was written like in 700, and it really represents something, even though it looks like a fable, but it represents Beowulf being that Saxon man, that Saxon king, attacking this monster. Well, who do you think the monster is? Yeah, they thought the Vikings were like a monster coming in. And so they were terrified of him, and they were like pirates, like I said. Well, England needed a king to unite them. As the Vikings were attacking, they were losing. Not the Vikings, but the Anglo-Saxons. So in 849, there was a Saxon king. Now, again, the Celtics moved. The Celtics are kind of out of the picture right now. We have this Saxon king. His name was, we're not going to talk about King Arthur yet. His name was Ethelwulf. Kind of like Beowulf, Ethelwulf. Ethelwulf ruled just in the area kind of Wessex, which is West Saxon. And his family ruled. And they were Christians. He had 5 boys. The first 4 ruled in succession after him. So he ruled, then the number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Well, number 5 was Alfred. Number 5. So number 4 king is ruling. Ethelred's son, Ethelwulf's son was named Ethelred. And he was ruling in 871, and Alfred was fighting with him, and the invading armies of Denmark came down, and they had this great battle. Alfred and Ethelred, his brother, defeated. Oh, I'm gonna have to take a break. Just a second.